Chris Lovell here with another edition of Pirate Talk. Thank you to Texas Tech Federal Credit Union for sponsoring these. I'm pleased to be joined on this edition by our man, Coach Rios, who handles the wrestling, here at Lubbock-Cooper. And boys, girls, it's a brand new program, about second year rolling here. I'm going to ask him a lot of dumb questions, but I want our purpose here is to kind of update his program and kind of educate everybody on what high school wrestling looks like, because you guys have hit the mat. Okay, there you go. Hit the mat running, and you've been rolling.
Yes, sir.
In a brand. So first of all, how did you get into this? How did you get into like wrestling and kind of amateur wrestling and all that kind of stuff? What was your background, and how did you end up as the coach here at Lubbock-Cooper?
So background, I started in 8th grade, like all of my kids at Cooper. Now that I'm trying to recruit, I was too scared to do it 7th grade.
Okay.
Didn't want to be in a singlet, and so.
Yeah, which is the uniform. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so the insecurities that were there and the lack of confidence that I had as a 7th grader, and so I had an older brother. He's 2 years older than me. And so he did the same thing, actually. So 7th grade basketball, and then 8th grade he wrestled. So I always followed in his footsteps. 7th grade basketball, B team, but I got a shot. You can ask Coach Flemings. So 8th grade decided to go out and just try it and just see. And so I had success early on. I was undefeated all the way until the city championship, and I lost. And then from then on, I kind of it grew on me. And I was like, man, I was a little guy. I was like 100 pounds. I was getting thrown around on the football field. I wasn't the fastest, still had a lot of baby fat on me. So when I was in track, wasn't the quickest kid, but I always competed. And so going into a sport like wrestling where it's weight classes. So I'm competing against a guy that's 100 pounds. Found success, like I said, went undefeated, and then continued through high school, so freshman, sophomore year, wrestled, but it wasn't really until the summer before my junior year that I kind of flipped a switch. I joined a local club, and from then on, everything changed. My mindset changed, and really, when I was in middle school, I think I lost to a club kid. He's the kid that beat me because I competed well against everybody, and then that kid kind of gave it to me a little bit. But I made it to the third round. We wrestled the whole full periods, but so I ended up joining the club summer before my junior year, and some things changed. We had practice every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Never missed a high school practice. I'd go straight from high school practice, drive to the Boys and Girls Club in Arna Benson, and we'd practice there another hour and a half. And my sophomore year, went 0-2 at regionals. By regionals, my junior year, I was the number 1 kid in the state of Texas. And so, as a span of 8 months, and so I just realized then from then on, I was like, I can do this. And so there, I guess full circle, the story is I ended up taking over that club for my coach, and I ran it for about a year and a half, and then I was coaching a student, and who was a Cooper. She was a Cooper athlete, and I joked around with her one time. I was like, you're working hard here for me. What are you doing wasting your time at Cooper? Because there wasn't a wrestling team.
Gotcha.
And so she mentioned to me at that time, she was like, well, actually,
funny you say that.
I think they're thinking about starting a program. And so I didn't know her mom. I didn't know anybody.
And you're like, really?
Yeah. So then the mom mentions it to me, and she's like, yeah, I've talked to this person, and they're kind of considering it. And they're even considering like starting it soon. And if it doesn't work out, then they'll probably just do like a JV. They'll at least let Zoe compete. Oh, is that her name?
Yeah, no.
But,
yeah.
So they're like, they at least let her compete.
She's pretty good, though. We'll get to her in a little bit. Yeah, she happens to be pretty good. Yeah.
And so so she mentioned it to me that time, and maybe a month or two passed, and she kind of brought it up to me again and was like, have you talked to anybody yet? And I was like, well, no. She's like, well, I kind of told you so you could try to get the ball.
Yeah, like you need to. Yeah,
so I kind of figured out things with my wrestling club and my old job. I was actually a manager at Altitude.
Okay.
And so we moved the wrestling club from the Boys and Girls Club to Altitude.
Is that the trampoline place? Yeah, it's a.
Yep.
Be careful there, people.
Yes.
Just please be careful when you go to
Very
Altitude,
careful.
man. It's just, especially if you're an adult and you think like, I can jump on these trampolines. It's no big deal. No, you can't.
Correct.
People like Lubbock Sports Medicine love adults that are jumping on trampolines at altitude. So just stay away.
Be very careful.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so
I was a manager there, and I moved the club to Altitude, and we ran it there because the coach that used to run the club is the owner of Altitude.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
So that's kind of how that all worked out. And so got things worked out with Altitude, got things worked out with my club, handed it down to my assistant coach, and pursued this.
And lo and behold, here you are.
Yes, sir.
And now you're on Pirate Talk.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Yeah, doing some podcasts with us. So what was it like to get to start a program from the ground up, though? Because that's the part that it seems overwhelming. Like, okay, we have a sport. We're going to start it. I don't know who, facility-wise, how many athletes we're going to have. I don't have a schedule. I mean, where did you start from the ground up? And I mean, because it seems like you've just hit the mat running again, and like you guys are well established.
Well, I'm glad it looks like that.
Okay,
but it was for sure. Well, I think maybe I do carry it well, but it was stressful.
I'm sure.
And trying to not only figure out that aspect of it, but this is my first year in education.
Okay.
Last year, and so there's a lot of things I had to learn.
As just being a teacher and,
Yep.
and all the things that come with being a coach for a school system. Yeah, I get that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I think that was, made 2 times as hard, but I had good mentors.
Yeah.
Shout out to Coach Flemings, Coach
Yeah.
Colwell.
Oh man,
they took care of me. Yeah,
you
I
mentioned
had good.
2 great people there. Yeah.
And so they helped me a ton. I bounced off a lot of things, a lot of questions off of them, and helped a lot. But so the transition of me taking over Hub City was kind of similar because we went from a free wrestling club and a boys and girls club at a boys and girls club to Altitude Trampoline Park, where we're charging a fee to do it monthly. And I'm the new face of this program, of this club that had produced year after year after year after year. And it's a bit nerve-wracking to take over because every year after the first year that the club opened, there's a state placer, state qualifier, state placer, and then now every year we're producing a state champ, Hub City. And so, I remember Coach Casillas, my assistant, that first year that I took it over, his son was a senior. I don't know, but he was going to state, right? And so he had won it or competed in the finals the year before. No, he was a junior. So his senior year, I was at Cooper.
Okay.
So he was a junior, and I had so much pressure on me of, man, Hub City's always produced, and if I don't get this guy to a state championship, I feel like I failed.
No, yeah.
And so I remember I was at Altitude. I was working, had to work, and I'm watching his stuff live, and he won the state championship. And I almost passed out because of just like the pressure of everything. It kind of, I don't know, let off of me. But
you're invested. I guess that's what I hear you saying. Yeah.
And so
emotionally invested.
Coming from that and then come to this, it helped a lot of carrying all that. And I don't think anybody expected the year that we had last year, so there wasn't any pressure. But I wanted to. Yeah. I wanted to prove people right. And I wanted to prove some people wrong.
Yeah.
And it was good. So, the biggest thing was trying to get numbers, trying to get kids in the door.
How many athletes, for example, how many athletes did you have competing for you last year and then this year? Take me through your
Okay, so last year,
big picture.
When the season started, I had 1 kid in my first period.
Oh.
And in the girls' period, I want to say I had
probably looking around am I in the right place? Are you the coach? Yeah.
And so second period, I don't remember how many kids I had, but then for the girls, I had about 7 or 8.
Okay.
And so from day one, I was recruiting. I was looking for kids. I knew more or less, what girls I had. I knew I didn't have really any boys. And then slowly, really it was because some of the kids were like, my schedule wasn't right. I was supposed to be in wrestling, but I hadn't because I met some of them through the summer.
Okay.
So it was scary that first day, but Cooper's so big, all these other sports, a lot of kids don't get to make the cut, and most of my female athletes are cut from another sport, were cut from another sport. So I met them in the counseling office the day of everybody's making cuts. Coach Lovern, soccer, all those other female sports, and
you're like, hey, come talk to me.
And so I had like a group of I don't know how many in front of me, maybe 20 girls that were all sitting there in the counseling office, waiting to get called to get their schedule changed to PE or whatever, and just try to give them my pitch. And I think we ended up with like 20-something, 25 girls after. So it worked.
ABC, man, always be recruiting. Yeah, that's right.
So we had a good amount of them, and so now I think we had about 20-ish, 40 total, probably with boys, and we're about 60 now. So we gained a little bit.
Okay.
Had some incoming freshmen from middle school.
So you have like 60 total athletes in your program
boys
this
and
year?
girls.
Okay, boys and girls total.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many weight classes are there?
For boys, there's 14. For girls, there's 12 now, and they changed this year. Last year, girls only had 10. This year, there's 12.
Do you have an athlete for every weight class for both?
I do pretty much now, and so the goal is to try to double up at each weight.
Is it every are we talking like 2 pounds difference?
Like
5 pounds
about 7.
Difference? 7 pounds difference.
6-7 pounds. For the girls, it's 100, 107, 114, 120, 126, 132, 138. 145, 152.
Now, so after the holidays now, let's be a truth teller here. After the holidays, do you come back from school and be like, guys, girls, you had too much turkey and dressing? I mean, how does that part work? How do they manage it? Or you don't want to get kids stressed about weight. I mean, all things, but how does that work?
Unfortunately, in our sport, we kind of do.
Have to.
But I did a better job of it last year because I was more prepared and aware. But when I met with the parents in August, I was like, unfortunately, we don't have a Thanksgiving, we don't have a Christmas, and we don't have a New Year's. We'll celebrate at the state tournament.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I did a good job of that last year. This year, not so much. But my year two kids, they kind of smoothed that out for me. But yeah, and the good thing about it is we get a 2-pound growth allowance second semester. So now every tournament.
Some kids just start they naturally puberty and all those things. They start growing. It's like science. It's
Yes, sir.
The Lord. Every rose blooms at a different time, right? So
middle schoolers are the worst, though.
Okay.
I think maybe debt-wise, like kids like 5, 7, 8 pounds over now from what they were wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's because they're growing more there at that age.
Okay.
Or faster, I guess I should say. And
so can they, if something like this happens, can they go from one weight class to the next in the middle of a season, or once they start that's where they have to compete in for the season? Is that kind of how it works?
So, it's the crazy thing about our sport. You got to beat the next guy in the weight if you want that weight.
I see. Okay.
So it's just like a ladder, depending on how many kids we have in that weight class. Typically, you can do it many ways. Okay. I can know right now, like if I moved up a weight class, I'll beat that kid, right? And it's kind of judgment off of the coach. If there's 3 kids in the weight, do I make them start from the bottom and work their way up? And for some kids, like it doesn't matter. Like you can pin that kid in 10 seconds. But just to respect the system, I have to have you wrestle him. Okay. So they'll go out, win, beat the 3 guy, beat the 2 guy, and then now you get to wrestle the 1.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way it works. So typically you want to stay where you are, where you feel the best.
Okay. And a wrestling match constitutes what? Like timing, rounds, explain that for somebody that's never seen this before.
Okay,
we're gonna go at it. There's an official there. We have a mat. Now what?
So every match starts neutral.
Okay.
We're on our feet. You have to line up on the red or the green line. And there's 3 2-minute rounds.
Okay.
So you only make it as far as you go, right? So you can end a match as little as 10 seconds, maybe less. Just depends if you get a pin. So then that's it. The match is over. You get pinned, the match is over. And then there's a technical fall, so it's kind of like a run roll in baseball. If you beat somebody by 15 points, no matter when that happens in the span of the 3 2-minute rounds, the match is over. And then outside of that, you go the full 6 minutes. If you are tied in points, you go 1 minute in overtime. If you're tied again, you go another minute, which is 2 30-second sessions. And then you'll go another 30 seconds, which is a ride or die. Okay. And so first round, you start on your feet. Second round, ref will flip a coin, and it'll be red or green. And then that gives you choice. Of whoever it lands on, so you can either pick neutral again, you can pick top position, bottom position, or you can defer, like in football, like when you get the ball. Yeah. Yep. And give the other person choice, and then you get choice third round.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that works.
Okay. And so we're clear here. This doesn't involve a figure four. I mean, I'm sure you get that all the time. I was like, did you watch professional wrestling growing up?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, do you still watch it?
No, sir, I do not.
You don't, because y'all sport it like the professional version of it that doesn't really. It's Olympics. It's like that's the big stage. Kurt Angle, people like that would have remembered some of those folks. So, and for a lot of colleges, Division I colleges, there's not. I mean, the Midwestern, sliver of the United States. I mean, Oklahoma States, Iowa States, Iowa, massive.
Yes, sir.
I mean, wrestling and all that stuff and all that. Okay, so tell me how your schedule is set up, and is there like because when you have these meets, there's a lot of schools at these meets, and explain your district and kind of how that works, because Azle is in your district, is in Lubbock-Cooper's district, for people that don't really grasp that. So explain that part.
So it's truthfully, like I said, I'm kind of new to this too, so it's
well, we're
it's
learning
hard
together.
To understand, but I think they try to kind of even it out as much as they can, keep you near to the people you're wrestling with. But so district will just work. As far as, I think we have 14 teams in our district this year.
Okay.
Last year we had 12. And, it's kind of spread out. But for the most part, we're kind of close. Got all the local Lubbock schools.
Is there anybody in Lubbock, because all LISD and then Friendship all have wrestling, yes?
Friendship does. We were the last school in Lubbock to get wrestling.
They got it. Okay, got it. And like the regional tournament is going to be in Canyon?
This year.
I think so, yeah.
For the first time.
Which is nice, fairly nearby. And so you have to win your weight class to kind of advance. It's not about Lubbock-Cooper as group. It's individual is how it goes.
It's pretty, I'm biased, but we're one of the toughest sports there is in high school.
Oh, I'm sure that's right.
And so, so to make it out of district, you have to get top 4.
Okay.
And then to make it, you go to regional, same thing. To make it to state, you have to be top 4. And
so be in top 4.
Yep, it has to be top 4, and so it's tough. If you weren't competing well our year, it's based off of like head-to-head matches, what you did previously. So for a new program to come in, it's difficult. What I was learning, like we're getting the number 1 seed every tournament, first match of the tournament, because we didn't do anything last year, and our record's bad. We're like 5-5, and so it's all off of track wrestling and your win percentage and your head-to-head criteria and all these things. So the beginning of our tournaments would be bad, but we drop consolation or we're on the back end and we're scrapping and we're getting after it. So it's tough for us. But now this second year, I got some kids that did a little bit and accomplished some things, so that carries some weight when we get to these tournaments now. Like it's 3rd place at state, and so we're number 1 seed, which is new and it's good. So it's hard. It was hard that first year, always being facing the top seeds wherever we go. But the kids would compete. They competed well, and so top four, and then at state.
So here we are in kind of mid-January here. How much? Because your season's been, it's one of the sports that goes both semesters.
Yes, sir.
When did it start? When did you kind of get going? Late October, early November?
Yes, sir. Basically November.
Okay.
Mid-November we can start competition. I don't want to say it was November 8th. you
Okay.
can start competing.
And then you roll through November, December, and then you're going to go, and it's going to finish up. Is this like mid to late February?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
3rd week of February is state.
Okay, there you go. So right when it's cold outside,
Yep.
you're on the mat. Now, recently you guys hosted a meet
Yes, sir.
at the high school. A lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of spotlights, a lot of. I don't know if there's any pyro there. I would support it. I don't know if it's in the budget, but kind of take me through. You try to make it a big deal. That's a lot of fun.
We had the fire plan, but it
Respect. The fire marshal was like, yeah, I can't do that. Yeah.
with the new court, and that was the biggest thing when my guy showed up to set everything up. I was like, do not touch this basketball court.
Yeah.
That's the last thing
Yeah,
I need.
They're very expensive. Yeah.
So he did it all safely. We set everything up on towels, and nothing touched the basketball floor.
Yeah.
But we were supposed to have cold sparks,
Okay.
and he was like, Coach, this is like it's like a 5-foot radius that these things can drop, and I was like, not doing it, not risking it, and
Yeah.
we were gonna try to lay something out.
That's a veteran move right there. Yeah. Some young coaches would have like, ask for forgiveness or ask for permission after forgiveness, that kind of deal. But yeah, good.
So it's something that you see at the D1 level, like the Iowas, all those places, and it's something I dreamed about personally. I didn't get to experience that in high school or college, and so.
And what we're talking about here, for people that don't know, I didn't mean to jump into it. Coach Rios hosted a meet at Lubbock-Cooper. It was at the high school.
First ever.
Yeah, the first ever one. And there was a lot of special lighting, and it was a presentation. There were some videos done with it. I think you can follow it at LCP Wrestling. You can go back and look at their feed and kind of see what we're talking about here. But, really trying to make it a big deal, make these kids, like, create a fun environment for everybody, for spectators as well.
Yep,
Yeah.
And it was walkout songs. We did everything, and so.
Did you let them pick their own song?
Yep.
Oh,
As long as it was
okay.
clean.
Clean, yeah. There you go. Good, yeah.
We got it. We
there
had
you
some funny ones.
What would have been Coach Rios' walkout song when he was competing? Give me one.
Coming in hot.
Okay.
I think that's what I would have chose. Lecrae.
Okay. There you
and
go.
Andy Mineo, but.
Okay. There you go. I like it. Good answer. Yeah. Good answer.
I gave it to one of my students when I was coaching at Hub, and they were gonna do walkout songs. They didn't have. I think he was a friendship kid, and they did something in their 9th grade center, and he said, we're gonna have walkout songs, and I told him that was mine.
Yeah,
mine would have been that, and so he picked it. But
yeah.
so that was kind of my idea behind it. Was I've never seen it here. It's never been done in Texas. I wanted it to be the first. I think that's something that's always been in my head. When I was at Estacado, I wanted to be the first state champ. I was the first regional champ. Unfortunately, not the first state champ. But, and you can only tie me. You can't beat me.
Yeah.
You can only tie me. And so, same thing. Like, nobody's done this before. We're going to be the first. Cooper's going to be the first. And so I have people reaching out already. Hey, who's the light guy?
Yeah.
Who did this?
That's
and
awesome.
And really, there is that, the ego part of it or that drive, but truthfully, it's to grow the sport. And we don't get. How do we get recognition to a sport that nobody looks at?
Yeah,
right?
no, I hear you.
And so, make it big.
Create a
put on a show.
Yeah.
And so, that was the big thing about it. Man, my kids loved it. I'm sure those kids that competed in that will never forget. And I mean, I won't. I was just smiling ear to ear, just seeing how the kids. And the crowd, the pop that we'd get on the intro song, because they pick some good songs.
You're using some pro wrestling terms. I like it.
Yes.
You
see,
know
that's.
the biz. Yeah,
I was gonna
go.
I was gonna go. I'm glad you referred to that too, because, the funny thing is like, I get where people are coming from, but that being an amateur wrestler, like that really grinds my gears.
I got you.
Oh, we come back from competition, we hear from her, did you jump off the top turnbuckle?
I know, I hear you.
Throwing
It's
some
a big
elbows.
joke,
And so I'm like, ha, ha, ha. And I get it. And so when I did that, they're like, oh, WWE. And oh, man.
But you're embracing the show.
Yes, sir.
That's what it is. Ultimately, it's entertainment, it's show, it's competition, and all that stuff. Tell me so we have practices 4 or 5 days a week. What are you teaching them in practice? I'm sure there's a weightlifting component, just getting stronger. We're teaching leverage, teaching balance. We're just trying to get stronger. But ultimately, what does a wrestling practice and consist of?
So I'll take you back first to last year because you mentioning this is funny. Um, it's all wrestling. It's all technique we had to do. And so last year there was a running joke with my kids because, you figured, right, wrestling, we're in the weight room, we're doing this, we're doing that. And really it's a lot of functional training that we try to do. And my old coach at Hub City, he did a really good job at making us really good in a short amount of time and making us strong in a short amount of time. And we rarely touch the weights.
Okay.
And so Coach Darden, I'm in the weight room now. And so so last year we had this running joke with the kids because they were always like, when are we in the weight room? When are we in the weight room? And when you can score on me, we'll go in the weight room. And so nobody scored on me. We did we hit it more early on in the season, but like it was during this time, they're like, when are we gonna lift weights? And I'm like, you don't even know how to tie your shoes, how to take your shoes off the right way, wrestling shoes. You want me to take you into the weight room?
Yeah.
So that was the next thing I was going to go into is like, I was teaching them from the ground up, literally. You have to do wrestling shoes a certain way, and you tie them a certain way. Because if your shoe comes untied in a match, they give the other person a point. And so there's a lot of learning all last year, and kids are just, you can just slip a shoe on and off most shoes now. And they're trying to do that, and it's like, and then we're trying to put it on and get ready to go and wrestle, and they can't. I'm like, you got to take 2 loops out and extend the laces, and you can slide your shoe in there right. I'm teaching them how to put headgears on, how to strap it right, all these things that these wrestling coaches are in the weight room. They're more live wrestling that they're able to do, and I have to teach my kids how to tie their shoes.
Literally, yeah.
But the funny thing is, we went out and beat some of those kids.
Yeah.
And so, practices.
They didn't think it was very funny.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Practices now, it's still heavy technique. It's real life chess. There's a lot of ways to win a chess match. And so, same concept. There's a counter to a counter to a counter to a counter. And the more and more we go and compete, the more and more questions they have. When I did that thing that you showed me, Coach, they did this. And then I did the defense you said to that, but then they did this. Yeah, and so still a whole lot of learning going on, but we're at the point to where we can wrestle live a little bit more, so it's good. So we're at right now, shorter duration, higher intensity. We're getting after it.
I feel like we've talked a long time. I'm probably wearing my producer Colton Coons out here a little bit. And
we're learning.
We're more of a checkers outfit here on Pirate Talk. You're playing chess, real life chess. I feel like we could talk real quickly before we let you get out of here. Take me through some of your athletes real fast. Kind of name some on the girls and boys side that are doing really well that you have some expectations for in the coming weeks, and then we'll let you get out of here on about your day.
Okay. So we'll start with the girls from the bottom, and I'll work my way up. So let's go. 100 right now is up in the air. So then we'll go 107. I have a senior, Cassie Mattel. She's doing really good for me right now. She was actually a football player back in the middle school, I think maybe her freshman days, and she's a tough girl. She's at 107 pounds. She's competing well. I want to say she's like 13-3, something around there. Okay. Then let's go to 120. Right now is Lily Long. She's doing well. She's 13-3. And only lost to, I think, the girls ranked second in the state. One of the girls that beat her. She's competing good, trying to put it together. 132 Zoe Bennett right now. She's undefeated, 14-0. She's ranked number 2 in the state. And the only girl in front of her is obviously the girl that beat her last year. That's the only loss she took last year, or the only loss she took at the state tournament was to the eventual state champ. So she's ranked number 2. And then we got Taylor Silko at 145 that probably most people know. She played football last year as well, and she's just a dog. You got to watch her 24/7 because she's getting after it all the time. She's the rare case, so I have to tell her to relax. Yeah, she's trying to work out 5 times a day, and so she's now the number 1 girl in the state of Texas at 145. She knocked her off a couple weeks ago at Azle. And then we got Laura at 152, who's doing well. She's coming right into her stride. And then Avi at 185. She was actually a state alternate for me last year. Probably most of these girls that I name can be on the state podium or can be at the state tournament. They start to believe in themselves. That's the biggest thing with these girls. They're 1 year into the sport, like 15 months into the sport, and the confidence is there-ish, but it's the nerves of wrestling stepping out in that matter. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's overwhelming, and we're starting to put it together and trying to be consistent. Being consistent is something that I'm pushing right now. So then in my heavyweight, 235, Kayla, she's doing well as well. Wrestling and beating some tough girls. She did well at Azle as well. So we're all reaching our stride right now, trying to peak at the right time. And then, so our boys side, I just got my 106 senior in. He just won Azle this weekend. He's 5-0 now. Got one of the twins at 113. We'll see who wins. I got 2 twin brothers at 113 that just scrap daily, and one of those guys should do well. Really, for the most part, my boys do really good, but it's just boy wrestlers from everywhere else up Amarillo. They've been wrestling since they were in diapers.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to beat these kids, but so somebody's gonna get mad at me for not naming them. What?
You just hit the highlights, man. Yeah.
So 106, and then my big guy Jaden, one of my big guys. He's at 175 right now. He's competing well. I think he's taking 3 losses. 2 of them are from Wyoming commit, D1 athlete. And then he just took a close loss up in Azle and ended up getting 3rd. Who else? I got a big freshman right now, 285. He's competing well. He took 2nd in Azle. He's one of Coach Hayes' guys, and so he gets to come from Hayes to me, and he's hearing it.
It's not Coach Douglas's kid, is it?
No, so he's behind
Blaze,
him.
okay.
But Blaze is getting after it as well. Blaze is keeping Ryder on his toes.
Okay.
It's Ryder Hatton, who's my 285 right
Okay.
now, and then Blaze is right behind him, and they're getting after each other. And I got 3 Titans, I call them.
Okay.
And got another guy, Colton Kirk. They're all 3 in the room together, just beating on each other. And so one of them's trying to be the top dog, and that just brings the dog out, and all of them really. So,
man, this was a lot of fun. After your season is over, hopefully in that 3rd week in February at the state and all that stuff, and you get plenty of people on the podium. We'd love to have you back and do this again and
Yes,
kind of
sir.
recap everything. This is a lot, and an education, I think, for me and so many people in this community. But you're crushing it. Keep those kids' confidence high, and
Yes,
keep
sir.
teaching them how to tie their shoes, and keep teaching them how to play chess, man.
Yes, sir.
Coach
Yes,
Rios,
sir.
appreciate the time, man.
Thank you. Thank
Another
you for having me.
edition of Pirate Talk, and you can follow Coach Rios' program at LCP Wrestling on Twitter. Any other social media platforms?
That's all we
to
have
share?
right now.
Okay, no, and
Yes, sir.
you crush that too. A lot of content on there, a lot of updates, a lot of graphics, all that stuff. So
Trying.
we certainly appreciate that. At LCP Wrestling on Twitter. So for next time, for Chris Lovell, for Coach Rios, we'll see you.